I'm Derek, it's me, Derek, and welcome to Stop Skeletons from Fighting. When WiiWare went offline in January 2019, it flung hundreds of games to the delisted void. Tons of games, some beautiful garbo, and other games from important franchises. Poof, gone in a Nintendo Thanos snap. At least officially. Sure, you can find WiiWare ROMs in malware-ridden corners of the internet. But in the dark future we live in now, the best way to play a digital game is to already have it. So what do I have salvaged on my Nintendo tombstone? Some hidden gem? An underrated classic? No, I want to talk about a game that's been completely forgotten. A game that might be the worst remake I've ever played. And for me, that is saying something. Blaster Master Overdrive. Sunsoft's very own botched attempt to reboot their reboot of the NES classic. And no, this is not about the reboot of the reboot of the reboot, the Blaster Master Zero series, which is now actually probably the most successful Blaster Master has ever been. Ha! Does the Zelda timeline have an official book in its canon? Does it? I'm actually not sure. Blaster Master Overdrive, on the other hand, is so bad, or just so aggressively mediocre. It's amazing. And did you honestly expect Uncle Derek to launch a new series by talking about a good game? Bad games need preservation too. This is Delisted. Blaster Master is a game for people in the know. And what I mean by that is if you're familiar with the NES classic, you're either old, a turbo nerd, or both. It's a classic among the retro fans, but Blaster Master doesn't have the broad recognition outside of that bubble. Or maybe not. It's on Switch Online, though I think Switch Online is only for old turbo nerds. It's not for Earthbound, apparently. We're back to this again. We're back to asking Nintendo to release Earthbound again. But in 1988, it was punching weight. The fact that it was split between Metroid-style exploration and classic Zelda action blew my mind as a kid. I'll never need another game again. Oh. The way your tank looked and controlled was actually pretty revolutionary for the time. Detailed and varied graphics, not to mention a legendary soundtrack, but no passwords. Limited continues. To get to the fourth area, you have to backtrack to the very beginning of the game. Who does that? Bosses can be bullet sponge endurance marathons, that is if you don't just cheat and use the grenade pause trick. Now that's what I call gaming. I'm the best. This game had problems for sure, except for the story about saving your giant mutated pet frog. That was perfect. Wait, I thought you went underground. That's Sky. Why is there Sky? Blaster Master was always a game that needed a remake, or at least a sequel. And it actually got both, and more. Sunsoft must have also thought Blaster Master had more to offer, as it actually has one of the longer legacies of an NES game. I mean, it had a long legacy, but I ain't saying it was a good one. Not even Blaster Processing could save the Genesis sequel. Blaster Master Boy is actually a stealth port of a totally different game. And then despite several reorgs and literal bankruptcy, Sunsoft kept coming back from the dead and kept bringing Blaster Master with it, with mixed results. The PS1 reboot is actually pretty good, though the Game Boy Color semi-remake is not. But then Sunsoft and good old Blasty just sorta disappeared. Not that they had a particularly high profile in the early 2000s, but it wasn't until the Wii made it clear that there was money to be made in retro games with a blast again. Though retro throwbacks and pixel aesthetics are common today, there was a time when it was an exciting new breath of fresh air in a sea of 3D brown of war. And what really kicked it off was the launch of the Wii and the Virtual Console in 2006. In just 2 years, there was the 100% 8-bit throwback Mega Man 9 and a few YouTube personalities bringing retro games to the masses, and suddenly the retro revolution was upon us. I mean, my second video ever, way back in 2007, was a Sunsoft game. Suddenly, 8-bit games were hot, and Sunsoft was a big player in the 8-bit days. They had been dormant since things went to 3D, acting mainly as a publishing house, but Sunsoft saw this new retro trend as another opportunity for Blaster Master to blast yet again. And this second coming started out as a pretty calculated and thought out plan. In December 2009, Sunsoft relaunched its website, released Blaster Master on Virtual Console, and teased one upcoming announcement in particular for fans. 2 months later, in February 2010, Blaster Master Overdrive was announced and then released another 2 days later. The game's ending even teases a sequel. April 1st, Sunsoft pulled a April Fool's Day prank announcing the release of a long-lost Blaster Master NES sequel called Destination Fred. Fred is the pet frog, by the way. They prepared fake screenshots and some websites fell for it. Sunsoft released a few more games to Virtual Console that summer, but by September 2010, things went quiet. This big push, Sunsoft's grand revival, seemed to stop dead, not even a full year in. Not to get too ahead of ourselves here, but Blaster Master Overdrive 2 never happened. But why not? I was lucky enough to buy Overdrive before Nintendo shut it all down, so let's actually look at the game. Sunsoft had kept busy as a publisher, but this was their first time in the developer role in almost a decade. Do you want to see what they had? Do you want to see their prize horse? Do you want to see what they pushed all their chips on? Yes, that flat, poorly mixed, awful horn is the perfect first impression. But there is so much to see in Blaster Master Overdrive. Get ready to be blasted by gray rock caves, slightly yellow rock caves, brown rock caves, and blue rock caves. Folks, is that parallax scrolling? Your eyes do not deceive you. That is multiple shades of rock shifting over each other. Welcome to the future, folks. The WiiWare is here. Okay, listen. Overdrive has all the style and flair of a promotional Newgrounds Flash game. Even the overhead levels are all the exact same style of cave. The entire game. It has absolutely none of the variety of the NES original. Enemies explode with the faintest little explosions, and they either just walk and patrol and jump around, or launch an unavoidable hailstorm of bullets at you. But at least the controls are alright. They even added a dedicated strafe button for the on-foot parts, except it's mapped to the B button for some reason. Yes, 1 is shoot, and 2 is not strafe, but it's power bomb, except power bombs are hard to come by, and you need to strafe way more often. What are you doing? And of course, no controller options, of course. Well, Uncle Derek, why aren't you using the classic controller? What's wrong with you, bro? I can't! It doesn't work! 2010, and they didn't have classic controller support. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. It's all this, baby. This is all you got. You now have 3 swappable weapons, which is a huge improvement over the NES original, but man, having shoulder buttons to swap would have made so much more sense. They also removed any mention of pet frogs, suggesting that Sunsoft maybe never fully understood what made this game a classic in the first place. But the worst / most incredible thing for me has gotta be the music. Sunsoft's NES games featured some of the greatest music to grace a Square Wave. Full stop, no bullshit. Whoa. Anyone worth their bone marrow will tell you that Sunsoft soundtracks can rule, and Blaster Master is no exception. Overdrive is not just bad, it sounds like it was composed with basic synth tones that you get in the trial version of an entry-level music program made by someone who thought that pitch bending was the greatest thing to happen to music ever. It's honestly some of the most hilarious and infuriating music I have ever heard on an official product. And some of the compositions are just flat wrong. Like this breakdown in Area 1 is all off rhythmically. I need to illustrate this, but a demonstration for the class. Hold on. Simple, fun. I don't know what the hell this is. Wait, what is that? No. What are you doing? It was a simple. It was. And then that fucking thing. What is? Wow! It's. Oh, all right, cut it, Grace, cut it. I can't. If there's a remake that's got worse music than this, man, like let me know. It's bad. It's so bad. And also, they got the melody wrong in part 4, which that's like probably my favorite song. Area 5's tune mixes the rhythm melody way up front, and the main melody in the back, you can barely hear it. And of course, the whole thing is pitch bent to oblivion. There are a few fine tracks like Area 2 and the water area, which is Area 3 in this game. And the final area, much to my surprise, nails the eerie vibe pretty well. But it's like, hey, the bare minimum, you barely cleared the bar. Way to go. From top to tail, Overdrive isn't really bad, for what it's worth. It's decently paced, tough but still decently challenging, I thought. It isn't buggy or glitchy, it's just amateur. So shockingly amateur that it belongs in a museum. It's amazing from both a business and video game development perspective. It needs to be studied. History is written by great successes and great failures, and this is one of the great failures of the retro revival of the 2000s. But Nintendo don't play no games, so pour one out for WiiWare. Now, some WiiWare games were ported elsewhere, or will hopefully very likely be brought back, but Overdrive was not so lucky. Poor quality isn't the reason Overdrive failed to bring Sunsoft back to greatness, I don't think, because actually, Overdrive was pretty well received at the time, or at least way better received than I expected. Some people had their heads on straight, but Nintendo Life said the soundtrack was better than ever. 9 out of 10. Are we even talking about the same game here? Classic Game Room did a video and the comments were mostly really positive, but it clearly wasn't enough since Sunsoft didn't do much afterwards. I mean, today it isn't even listed on the Blaster Master section of the Sunsoft website. But I think it had more to do with the timing. By 2010, the Wii was still a sales juggernaut, but the honeymoon was over. Virtual console releases were slowing way down, and WiiWare had become unappealing to developers due to strict size limits, lengthy certification processes, and minimum sales requirements, especially in the face of XBLA and PSN and smartphones. It is crazy to think that Super Meat Boy was at one point maybe going to be a WiiWare exclusive. 2010 WiiWare was never a good fit for Overdrive. In 2011, Sunsoft would develop a 3D Mahjong game for 3DS, and then return to hibernation. The happy ending here is of course Blaster Master Zero from Inti Creates, which is now a damn trilogy. I'm making this right before the third one drops, so I can't vouch for that one, but the other two are great. There's plenty of audio allusions to the NES original. Fred the Frog is back in a prominent character. The first one's a bit on the easy side, and the second one features watermelon booby waifu.
It's Kana time, baby!
Which, that's not actually a complaint from me, I'm just illustrating that the Inti really took the series in their own direction. There are no frog waifus, but again, I haven't played the third one yet, so who knows. Sunsoft's name is on these games, but Inti Creates is the sole developer. A lot of changes were necessary and welcome, but after that first level in the first game, the nostalgia stops, and Inti was untethered to basically make a completely different type of game. That still only makes it slightly less unfaithful than Overdrive, but it's great to see a new trilogy, and I'm glad the Blaster Master is back blasting as good as ever, but these games might make a re-release of Overdrive more unlikely, but it doesn't make it any less necessary. Bad games need preservation too. Sunsoft may want you to forget about this game, but I don't. WiiWare is gone, but scofflaws are still out there preserving video games in spite of the video game industry. When games preservation is outlawed, only outlaws will preserve games. If there are any digital games that have vanished from digital stores that you would love to see on a future episode of Delisted, let me know. I'm sure you have noticed that we made the Delisted logo in the PT font, and that was to, right up front, acknowledge that yes, the most famous Delisted game of all time is probably PT, and yes, we will cover that in due time, but not right now. Stop Skeletons and Fighting is a Patreon-supported show. Every single one of these people here helps make this show possible. You can join their ranks for just $1, see your name here, get in our Discord, see videos early, and then vote on new videos coming up, chat with us during our podcast, or hey, if you can't do any of that, tell a friend, let them know what is the dumbest and funnest YouTube channel. Tell them about Stop Skeletons and Fighting. More episodes of Delisted are coming. Let us know how you think about it. Are you excited about this new show? How you feel about this new show? I'm excited about it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Always got new stuff coming. I'm Uncle Derek. Over there, we got producer Grace off camera. And we will see you again real soon. Stay powerful. High five, Grace. High five. Yeah. No, like force perspective high five. Yes. High five. Yeah. The dumbest YouTube channel there is. Bye.